Hello, everybody. Faculty Factory podcast is back today, but it's with the producer, Casey Callanan, interviewing Dr. Skorupski. But this time we're talking about a really exciting resource we have made available. It's actually the third book that has come out since the Faculty Factory's inception around 2019 is when we first started. First, we released Snippets for Success. This came out in 2021, and this highlighted key takeaways of 42 Faculty Factory snippet episodes that actually provided questions for self reflection. And these were all based on interviews that took place in this podcast that covered things that are vital like communication, education, leadership, mentorship, research, and scholarship. That was our first ever book that came out in 2021. Our follow-up book came out in 2022. This is Habits and Hacks from Hopkins. And this was a series of podcast interviews that Dr. Skorupski conducted with Johns Hopkins School of Medicine faculty. And this series explored different habits, hacks, practices, routines, tips. We wanted to encourage and inspire the Faculty Factory listeners to learn from some of the best and brightest and build some of these healthy habits that Dr. Skorupski had the pleasure of interviewing people about. So those first two books were ebooks. They're still available now. We'll provide links to them if you've never had the chance to download them. They are free, and we really encourage you to check them out. Basically, it is podcast interviews and distilling down some of the top takeaways from these interviews in bite-sized chunks, so snippets of snippets essentially for these. And we try to meet faculty where they're at and just make sure that these bulleted takeaways serve as a teaser to what the full interview was about, and you always have the opportunity to go back and listen to the full interview. So that leads us to why we're here today. We're celebrating the release of our third book. This one took 2 years. It's much more robust than the first two. It's more comprehensive. And to be honest, this is the first one that you can actually order as a print version, because we wanted to give you that ability as well. If you just still like that physical copy in your hands, we're going to make this one available. It is the Academic Medicine Starter Kit. We're talking timeless tips and guidance for early career faculty members. So this one is all about building the advice, strategies, tools, and wisdom for early career faculty. And I want to get Dr. Skorupski's take on the way this book was organized, because it includes 8 different sections: promotion, research, scholarship, mentorship, coaching, sponsorship, all these wonderful things. And it's completely free. The book is completely free to download on our website. And you can also order it on Amazon at cost of what it costs Amazon to ship and print it, which is about $5. Dr. Skorupski, I'll let you take it away on how we decided to structure this book.
Well, thanks, Casey. And everybody needs to know that none of these books would have been possible were it not for Casey Callanan. So it's Casey's idea to distill all this wisdom into another medium. So it's Casey's creativity, getting the cover designs, putting it all together. So you, Casey, are really invaluable. I love our conversations. You're great to work with. And yeah, I was just thinking as you were talking, going down memory lane here, the Habits and Hacks from Hopkins, our second book. I remember that happened during COVID, because we first started talking about it was in 2020 when the world shut down. And I remember, well, we all remember how conferences got canceled. So all these speaking engagements that our faculty had been invited to, going around the country, going around the world, sharing their great news of their research and their practice and their education, all those activities had been just, ground to a halt. So that was when I said, hey, Casey, let's give an opportunity for our faculty to at least have something, some, publication, if you will, some way to get the word out and share their research and all their wisdom. So that was, I remember, because some friends have said, well, why was you just from Hopkins? I'm like, well, that was our effort. Hopkins, our wonderful vice dean, does sponsor this. Dr. Maria Oliva Hemker does sponsor this activity. And it was just our effort to support our faculty, because this is all, the Faculty Factory community. people still ask me, Casey, like, gosh, you call it the faculty factory. Do you ever worry about the negative side of using the word factory? Like it's the factory, we're working in a factory, or your faculty members are factory workers. And I'm like, no, I have thought about that, but I like the alliteration. I like wordplay. And rather than being the dark side of factory, to me, which is why I wanted that background on our website, was we're a community sharing tools to build leaders. So that was kind of my motto, and our mantra is that we are all convening in a community, sharing with each other. That's why I like these books that you kind of nudged me to do. It's a slog. It's hard work, as you know, to do this, but I've enjoyed the process, and I enjoy the idea of us being able to get the word out more broadly.
Yeah, I just want to mention that this book features more than 120 academic leaders and faculty members from 31 different institutions across
Yeah.
North America. This one is for everyone. It includes everyone's voice from around
Mm.
North America
Yeah, yeah.
specifically. This book is not just Johns Hopkins personnel. This
No.
is everyone, and everyone's eligible. That's why we always reach out to as many people as we can to get these different voices on the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah, but before I talk about that process, I just pulled up your latest diagnostics, Casey. As of May 1st, the whole podcast, we've had 93,314 total downloads. When we hit 100,000, we should do something fun or celebrate that, or at least acknowledge that. But the YouTube channel, and some people who listen to this podcast may not know that we have a YouTube channel that I think was your idea, as usual, Casey. And on that YouTube channel, we put together buckets, so these conceptual domains of topics, and then Casey puts all the podcast episodes in those buckets. So that way you could just go to YouTube, and instead of searching, we're like, I don't know, what are we at, like episode 280 now, Casey, or somewhere close to that. Instead of scrolling through all the podcasts, because it is every Friday for 5 years now, you could go to the YouTube channel and search in the buckets of, communication or leadership or mentorship or scholarship. So that's really cool. But we have listeners in 98 countries to the YouTube channel. The website has about 45,000 web visits from users in 122 countries. And yeah, so we've got great diagnostics on uptake for those two prior books. And we're hoping this academic medicine starter kit will be useful for our friends who are in medical school, contemplating medical school, residents, fellows, and of course, early career faculty members and mentors out there, people who are in leadership and dean roles, and coaching and advising faculty members. We worked really hard. Casey does all the yeoman's work. He does all the work on getting this on the website and editing the podcast episodes and keeping track of all the data. And I'm trying to remember, like you said, Casey, this was almost 2 years in the making. And I really can't even remember. Oh, I think you sent me like all the episodes in alphabetical order. And when we were thinking about how we could
Yeah,
put,
I want you to inform people why you wanted the structure
yeah,
of order it comes in. Like why was promotion, research, and scholarship chapter one? Why is
yeah.
mentorship, coaching, and sponsorship chapter two, etc.?
Yeah, I remember you sent me the list. You're like, okay, Kim, here's the past, 5 years of episodes, and it was huge. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is no, we got to figure out a logical way of organizing this. And so, like we always do when we're in faculty development, faculty affairs, we really try to step into the world of the faculty members and meet them where they are. And it's always faculty first, faculty first. So I try to really work hard to say, okay, if I'm in med school, finishing up, and doing some residence fellowship, trying to wonder where my next journey, where my path will take me, what would I want to know about first? And so I remember struggling a lot with, all right, what's up top? I don't want to start with leadership, although because leadership might be too much, too overwhelming. Do we start with self-awareness? Because when we teach leadership courses, we always start with self-awareness because one of the things we believe is you can't be a good leader unless you can lead yourself and know yourself. And so I remember kind of noodling around with that, and then landed on, hey, Casey, let's just start with promotion, research, and scholarship, because that's the coin of the realm, the currency of the trade in academia is scholarship. Academia means education. It's all about teaching, and teaching and education is all about scholarship. So, and then that scholarship results in ultimately promotion and recognition for the impact you're making on the world and in your field. So we started off the first chapter. I said, let's put all the episodes where all of our friends from around the world have talked about promotion, research, and scholarship. And let's kind of make sure we're very clear. So if someone picks up this book and they're considering academic medicine or are just new to academic medicine, let's make it very clear to them that the paramount importance, that why you're choosing academia is for the academic component of it. And this is the bread and butter of academia: promotion, research, and scholarship. And then, none of that happens unless we have good mentorship, coaching, and sponsorship. So those kind of three we weave together recently in the field: mentorship, coaching, and sponsorship, all very important. So all my lovely colleagues and friends who spoke about that, we put them in that, lumped in that chapter. Education, way up there again. If you're in academia, you're an academic, and that's just means education. We all educate, regardless if you're in a classroom or on Zoom with a formal syllabus or whatnot. You're at the bedside, you're with your patients in the examination rooms, you're in the lab, you're with your colleagues, we're in meetings, we are all doing education. And then chapter 4, I think you mentioned self-awareness, self-management, and well-being. How do we know ourselves to better manage ourselves? And then chapter 5, leadership, because everyone wants to be a leader. And so we talk about leadership and followership. You can't be a good leader if you're not following. Everybody's following someone. So we talk about leadership. And then we talk about, in chapter 6, networking, why that's important and how we can do that if it's maybe not natural to you and it's a little more difficult, the different ways to do that. So we hear a lot of wisdom from a lot of different networks out there, networkers. And then chapter 7 is communication, because that, of course, is the bane of everyone's existence. All struggles, all challenges in the world emanate from communication gaffes and communication misfires and assumptions about communication. So that's super cool. We had to have a whole session chapter on that. And then I loved your terminology for, we ended up with a bunch of episodes that were like, well, they don't really fit cleanly in one of these, or they kind of cross chapters. And so you had this really cool way of coming up with another wordplay, which I love: pod potpourri. So the last chapter is pod potpourri. So that's how kind of I remember we did it, and we organized it. Then within each chapter, I remember organizing it by a theme, kind of like starting off the broader episodes and then more granular episodes. And then, of course, I wrote a little primer to each chapter so that people would know what this chapter is about and why it matters. And then each chapter, yeah, lists so I'm looking at up front here, 10 strategies for success for early career faculty and beyond, with Jessica Kahn from Cincinnati. I love Jessica. I worked with her for years on the AAMC Group on Faculty Affairs Research and Project Development Subcommittee. She's brilliant. So Dr. Kahn talks about strategies, and then we have 5 bullet points about key takeaways from her interview. And then you've listed the link to listen to her full interview at the bottom of that. And then the next page is our lovely Dr. Namanje Bumpus, navigating the early career years, key takeaways, and listening to her full episode. And it goes on from there. We have Susan Chubinskaya, my old boss from Rush University Medical Center in Chicago, and now she's at UTMB, University of Texas Medical Branch.
Yep.
In Galveston, she talks about pearls of wisdom for faculty. And so it goes on like that and then at the very end, we have the bio sketches. You've done a nice job of, if someone wants to search by author, podcast guest, they could go to the end and look through the appendix and alphabetically the speaker index and find them and what episodes, because many of our guests have, multiple episodes. I'm thinking of definitely Wendy Ward. Wendy Ward probably gets the award. She's got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 episodes to her credit So
Yeah, and I will say the reason that we went with the structure is because podcasts are so many different things. They're entertainment, they're education. I would put Faculty Factory in the bucket of an education podcast first and foremost. I use podcasts as my own personal uh, professional development tool. Like it's probably my number one way to learn about my industry of marketing and communications and the media work that I do. So I know it's different, but just to steal like the way that I would want to be educated based on podcasts is I listen to so many podcasts about doing my craft better that a lot of it doesn't stick because it's just one after the other. I'm driving out to a video shoot or I'm driving out to a different event or I'm in the car for whatever reason and I'm listening to a podcast. I'm like, this is amazing, this is groundbreaking stuff, and then I just don't have anything to write it down with at the time or whatever, so I completely kind of forget about it. And maybe I get lucky and it comes back to mind later when something makes me think of it. So this was a way of kind of taking everything that we've covered and distilling it down into 4 or 5 takeaways to remind, even if you're a loyal Faculty Factory listener, to remind you of what that episode was about. And then you say, oh man, I remember that one. I need to go back and re-listen to the full episode. So that
yeah.
was why we structure it this way, because podcasts can just float up in the ether and be done with it, just kind of like AM radio used to do back in the day. Like you would just listen all day and then forget about it the next day and it was a new show with a new topic. So instead of letting it just all float off into the ether and disappear, this was the way to document the history of the Faculty Factory, what we covered, because so many of the topics are evergreen. They're not just fly
Right.
by night topics. These are enduring topics. So that was the structure. Can't emphasize enough that we want to get it out there. So it's completely free to download.
Mhm.
facultyfactory.org/ebook is the direct link, which we'll put in there where you can download it for free, print it off at home, whatever. If you want to actually order the book from Amazon, the cheapest Amazon would let us put it up for is $5.09 for the print version to cover their costs. So Amazon prints it on demand and sends it to you. So for $5, not including shipping, I don't believe. But Prime members and stuff will get free shipping, I think. So it's $5 if you want to order a print version, and it's 99 cents for the Kindle version. Again, Amazon wouldn't let us just put it for free, but we want to get it out there as much as we can. So
Yeah.
I would just recommend starting with the downloadable version, checking it out, seeing if it's of use. And if you want a copy you can have at the bookshelf at home or your office, then go ahead and get the one on Amazon.
Perfect. And yeah, again, thanks, Casey. I could never have done any of this without you because you know me. I'm a Luddite. I hate technology. I friends and family still roar. It's hysterical to them that I actually have a podcast because I only listen to one podcast. That's Hidden Brain, because there's so many of them. I get overwhelmed by technology. So yeah, this has been great. It's been a great collaboration. So I do want to promote, celebrate you and promote you and your work
Well,
because you've been invaluable.
and I want to make this the final word. We say this on our website and we mean this. These books were made possible through the generous contributions of the people who make up the Faculty Factory community. These are the people that find time for Dr. Skorupski to interview you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for that time. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, because without those contributions from this robust community that, we have all built together, these books just do not exist.
Yeah. People email me and I can tell they're curious about the podcast, but they don't know how to do it. But I know they want to share something. It's so easy. If you want to be on the podcast or you know someone who should be on the podcast, it literally is a matter of you sending me an email saying, hey, Kim, I think Joe, Tisha, whoever would be great on this podcast. Here's their email. We literally just, I say, send me 3 dates that work for you. We hop on a Zoom, we record the audio, we just riff. It's a very casual, informal conversation. There's no pre-rehearsal. There's no questions. I send you a list of things. We just have a conversation. We talk the first couple minutes before I hit record and we go. So it's low effort. It's just, share your where we all do so many great things. And I think we maybe take them for granted because we do them. We think, well, they can't be that great. They're that interesting. I promise you, everything you're doing is interesting, and let's share it. Get on the podcast. So shoot us an email and sponsor other people to be on the podcast, and makes it easier for me instead of having to kind of plead with people to be on the podcast. Don't be shy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Skorupski.
Thank you, Casey.
Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. The mission of the Faculty Factory is to build and support a community of leaders in faculty development who share tools, resources, wisdom, and encouragement in service to our faculty members, schools, and institutions. We encourage you to go to facultyfactory.org to find out more. Get in touch with me, ask me any questions. Maybe you want to be interviewed on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. We'll see you next time. The Faculty Factory podcast and website is sponsored by the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine Office of Faculty. For more information, visit facultyfactory.org.